If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
O'Reilly.
Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly.
Save on your next oil change at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Choose Castrol Edge Full Synthetic Motor Oil to provide maximum performance and protection for your engine. Get a $15 gift card after rebate when you buy 5 quarts of Castrol Edge for $34.95. Plus 2 times O Rewards points. Offer valid in-store and online at O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back here into a brand new podcast coming to Maher Media, Kicking It With Knuble, episode 1. I'm here with the man of the hour, Mike Knuble. Mike, thanks so much for doing this. It's great to sit down and talk with you, and obviously get back with what we're doing. And we're back with a vengeance, my friend, and it's exciting, and should be a lot of fun.
Your school got in the way a little bit there, and everything else. So it's life, I guess, right? And life as a kid trying to make his way and get educated. So school gets in the way sometimes,
Yeah. No, unfortunately it did. And, obviously it was tough because it wasn't something that I wanted to end, Mike. I really enjoyed, obviously sitting down and talking with you. And I think there was a huge thing where each week where it was like, every week I was learning something new, you know what I mean? And it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad that we were able to figure it out and kind of go from there. As for the show and things like that, I'm going to kind of explain a couple of things just for the listeners out there. So obviously we're on Twitter. It's at Kickin It Knuble, Instagram as well. Each week, show will be around 30 minutes or so. Every Friday at noon, you can expect new episodes. We'll talk about everything surrounding the Flyers and the NHL. The video versions will be up on YouTube and Twitter. And then as for audio, you can follow along on Spotify and Apple. Going to be very exciting. I think there's a lot of things this year, Mike, with the Flyers and just kind of where the team is at. It's definitely an exciting season ahead. You have Michkov, right, which is a huge surprise. Everyone is stoked for that. Today, as we're recording this, was the first day of rookie camp, and there was a line outside the door. I can't tell you the last time there was a line outside the door of the practice facility. The next steps are ahead for the rebuild. What's something that you're most excited for this year in terms of either the pod, the Flyer season, whatever it is?
Yeah, no, it's improvement from last year, right? Like, can you keep this thing moving forward and moving in the right direction? And it's a lot of young players, who are looking to take that next step forward. And obviously, Michkov is the real kind of the genesis of all this excitement. So that's certainly going to be interesting to see how that plays out. What's going to happen in goal here? Obviously, the Carter Hart situation is just traumatic for any number of reasons. It's awful all the way around, but from the team perspective, it's like, what do you do to replace that, and how's that going to settle out, and he was such a mainstay there. So it's that's another tough question. It seems like there's always goaltending questions, right? And that's it always makes you a lot uneasy when you have some goaltending questions like that, and who's going to take it over, and and will that be able to still, how big an influence is that? And then again, like we talked about, young players, can they keep progressing, and can the core group of the young players, can somebody come in and add to that core group, and will somebody fall behind a little bit, or how many of these guys can you keep moving forward? And so I think those are some interesting storylines, to follow here so far.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think the biggest thing for me, Mike, is in net. And just kind of going off what you were saying, like they need one of these goaltenders to really take charge.
Mhm.
I think the hardest thing from last year was putting so much on Sam Ersson in the middle of the season when they were already in a playoff spot and they were already playing well. And the last game of Hart's career, which seems like his last game of his NHL career, was right after the Flyers. I mean, they were buzzing at that time. They had a 5-1 win over Dallas the night where Owen Tippett had that backhand spinorama goal.
Yeah.
Everything was going great, and they were, again, like they won 5 in a row, and it's like, all right, they're going into Colorado. And it was right before the All-Star break. They lost a couple of games. I think they won 5 and then lost 5 going into the break. And that was that last game that Hart played. And then you put so much pressure on Sam Ersson to be like, hey, we need you to kind of take us to the playoffs right now. And like, he's only played, I think at that time, maybe 30 something games, not even, maybe 25. So it's hard for that. And it's hard for a young goalie. And then you also have Fedotov, who came in the later part of the year, played in the last couple of games. He came in the worst stretch of last season. So I get what you're saying. It's kind of tough to kind of pinpoint where, the goaltending is going to be. Do you have a set guy in your mind that you're like, hey, like, I think this guy's going to be the starter? Or do you feel like this is just going to kind of be like a 1A, 1B situation all year? They both kind of split, see what Ersson has, see what Fedotov has, and then the Flyers kind of go from there and make their choice?
Yeah, I think, well, Ersson's got a little bit better body of work, right? You get a little bit more of a sample size with him. Like when Hart was still there, and they probably, you budget in a certain amount of rest for Hart, a certain amount of games. Like, let's keep Sam in the certain window of games, and then when kind of the situation changed after the All-Star break, and then you thrust them into that, right? And then all of a sudden your plan goes out the window,
Right.
And so, and then all of a sudden you're leaning on this guy, and he might not quite have been ready for that, and now you're leaning on him, and now, in the weight, tiredness of the season, and then, the weight of playoffs and the weight of every game meaning so much after the All-Star game starts to get you a little bit. And Fedotov came in a little bit late, I don't know, it's kind of an audition a little bit. So now you come into the season, are they 50-50? I don't know. Probably not, right? They're probably,
Right.
Ersson's probably ahead, he's probably 65-35, or, if my math is right, he'll get a proportion more of the games, and it'll probably end up being his to run with, and should he waver, the other guy's going to get a chance. But I mean, I assume from the start, he's going to be the head guy, he'll get more of the games. But again, it's a big load, like your first full year like that. You can't dump 80% of the games on a guy like that. You're going to have to lean on these two, and they're going to be goaltending by committee a little bit. I mean, you have to. You can't put it on these. You don't even know what you have, really. You've got to, none of them are proven enough. So you're going to have to balance them out a little bit. It might be 65-35, but you're going to have to get work out of both of them, substantial work out of each.
Right. Yeah, no, 100%. And I feel like too, Mike, with that, we had a tweet earlier that came up on the account that I put out, that was 3 expectations from us. Yours was someone take control of the net. That was one of yours. Obviously, we just mentioned that a little bit. A couple other things you talked about. You said continued growth in standings, get Couturier back to form. As for me, I put continue to win the fans back. Power play improves, and find your starting goaltender. So we both, I think, are pretty set on, like, you got to find a goaltender and you got to get that guy and figure out who it is. As for some of the other things here, find your starting goaltender. Obviously, we mentioned that. Continue to win the fans back. The power play improves. I'll start with those. I think the fans is getting there. I feel like, obviously with Michkov, you're going to have more of that. We'll talk about Matvei in a minute. I feel like the fans are obviously pumped. I think everybody's excited. Again, we just mentioned literally that there's a line outside of the practice facility. I think the last time that was there, Mike, was 2014. It was like one of the first camps I went to as a kid. Was probably the last time there was an actual line outside of the training center in Voorhees. And then the power play. Like, to me, the power play is a huge thing. I get a little critical, I think, with the power play and the Flyers management, in the sense of they've kind of preached accountability, and they've kind of said, we hold guys accountable and all that stuff. And you have a coach who really hones in on that and says that publicly. And then you keep the same guy that's coached your power play to be last in the last 3 years, or last 2 years, excuse me. But the Flyers have had the worst power play in the league last 3 years in a row. Same coach has coached it in the last 2 years, and that's Rocky Thompson. Do you feel like that there's a little bit of a disconnect there, and just in the sense of, like, you're kind of preaching accountability with this guy, and it's not really working, and it's been proven that it's last? And I think you would agree with me that I personally don't think that the Flyers have a bad enough roster to be the last power play in the league, to be around 10-12%. Is that something you agree with or no?
Well, I know Rocky, a bit as a coached against him in the American League, and
Yeah.
you're a good, smart hockey man, and it's it always, it's always, what is it? Is it coaching? Is it the personnel? What is it? And so you could argue that even within the coaching staff, like they may work a little bit more together instead of it just being on Rocky, or and I know nothing that's going on in there, believe me. And but I've seen in other things you might have somebody give a little bit more of an opinion, but as long as John is liking what he's preaching, then it's just probably finding a way. Do you deliver it different? Do you have meetings? Do you not have meetings? Do you have more meetings? Do you have less meetings? Do you have one-on-one meetings? Do you have more video? Do you have less video? So these things are being exhausted, but some of his personnel, to me too, it's it just seems like goals are scored probably within a 10-foot radius of the crease, right? And statistics prove this. There's maybe you can go out 15 feet, kind of up to the hash marks.
Yeah.
For sure, maybe 6 or 7 feet inside the dot. So picture that little square. It's probably 35, 40 square feet. Like, it's not much, right? And so, maybe a 20 by 20 square, and you can snap it around the outside. You can have puck possession. You can do all this stuff. And if you're not getting shots from there, you're not getting second chances and second efforts from there, or tips or deflections or screens, you aren't going to be successful on a power play. You can go to what they call spread and pass around the outside and try and exploit seams. But, 40-foot pass followed by a 40-foot one-timer, goalies are, these days that's like picking cherries for them. It's continuously taking their eyes away. So to me, it's finding that person, like a James Van Riemsdyk type guy who's around the net, who's gonna, and is that guy on the roster. And if you are a young player and you're looking to get on the power play, why aren't you being that guy?
Right.
Why don't you say, like, hey, Rocky, I need to be this guy. Like, I see teams that have success with guys around there. A TJ Oshie's, getting high deflections in the slot. And you change how you're delivering. You got to change how you're delivering the puck to the net. It can't be just one timers and backdoor plays and trying to do that. You got to have some misdirection of the puck and a little bit of chaos in front of them, a little bit of sloppiness, and a little bit of creating your own messes in front of the crease. Create your own chaos in front of the crease. And so. Yeah. And then you could argue there's some personnel on that too. Who's the guy that's going to be doing that for the Flyers? And so you can go around and around on this stuff, and it just depends what kind of side of the coin you land on, really.
Right. Yeah. No. I feel like too, Mike, when I look at it, and I think I'm getting what you're saying, and I think part of my issue with the power play is the fact that the unit constantly changes. It's never like a set thing. If you go back to even when you were with the Flyers power play for a long time, you made your day in the NHL from being in front of the net and scoring a ton of goals in front of the net, and obviously power play goals, all that stuff. And I think you're right. I think one of the hardest things that I've seen the Flyers kind of go away from in the past couple of years is they constantly change the screen and who's in front of the net. Like, there's times where they'll use the double screen, and they'll have two guys that one will kind of sit in the slot and the other one will kind of move at the same time. Obviously you have an idea what I'm talking about. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I think a lot of it is they've changed quarterbacks too. It's in the past couple of years, off the top of my head, it's been Gostisbehere, Provorov, Sanheim, York, Drysdale. That's 5 guys right there off the top of my head. I mean, you should have pretty much one, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And again, like a team that you played for, the Washington Capitals that's had so much success on the power play have had the same pretty much 7 guys on the power play, give or take, and a couple guys change. But it's been Carlson, Ovechkin, Backstrom, Wilson, Kuznetsov, Oshie. I mean, and obviously when you were there, you were in front of the net. So like, it's not, I feel like the Flyers kind of make it rocket science when it's not, you know what I mean? So I agree. I think one of the biggest things this year is trying to get the quarterback guy. That's my thing. I do agree with what you're saying. In net front, I think the biggest thing is trying to get that quarterback to run it and be able to be that mobile guy. Because obviously now you have Michkov and he's a very explosive player, and you can kind of put him wherever. If you want to put him on the left flank where he can shoot, preferably I'd rather have him on the right side where he can rip the one-timer. But I feel like for me, like, again, I'd rather have the quarterback, and this kind of goes to my next question here. They have a lot of uncertainties on defense. You have, and we actually talked about this last time we were doing this show. And we talked about going into last season where we were like, what's going to happen with the D? And I thought the D actually had a solid season. Like, they had some good moments from their defensemen. I thought Travis Sanheim proved he could play. I thought Cam York really proved he looked like he could be a number 1 defenseman. Then you got Jamie Drysdale in the middle of January, and it was like, all right, like, they're kind of getting there. Obviously, you have some other guys, Sealer, Eric Johnson, they signed this summer, but nothing really changed with the Flyers roster. It's pretty much the same. They just added Michkov. The uncertainties on defense come in. You have Drysdale, who has an injury. He just got off core muscle surgery. The Flyers have never had anything good with that in the past. Giroux's had that and had issues. Kevin Hayes had that. Gostisbehere, I believe Brian Elliott as well. You have Verstalainen, who was hurt. Can he come back and play? That's a big thing. And then Eric Johnson. To me, that's huge, Eric Johnson, because I feel like when I look at veterans and I look at guys that they brought in, guys like Mark Stahl last year, I know this is a really long-winded question, but when you look at those guys and you just see like that, those guys are really important to a room. I feel like with the uncertainties on defense and all that, do you think that it's going to take some time with some of the injuries, especially with guys like Drysdale, and how big in the sense of Johnson do you feel like those guys can kind of be to the room?
Well, regarding like Jamie Drysdale, like getting here, got to Philadelphia in January under these circumstances, and rushed in, and then he's not 100% and had some had some really deep down injury issues that obviously needed some attention in the off season. Right. So, obviously you get him with the intention that he's going to be your guy for a while, being, what is he, 20 years old or 21, whatever he is. Like, it's, he's your guy that you're planning on having for a while. So again, there has to be some patience with that too. Like, he's got to grow, and, is it going to be all aces right out of the gate? Probably not. He's going to make his share of mistakes, but the potential and what they're betting on is there, and and it's going to be a while before they go away from that, I would imagine. I mean, that's why you brought him here. Big part of that. And is Cam York, the second guy who can run power plays, or can you flip flop them? And most likely, if you're very happy with your personnel, you're going to be able to interchange those guys. If one's faltering a little bit, one's doing a little bit better job. Part of learning too is failing, and then running a second unit when you think you're the first unit guy, right? And being pissed off about it. I mean, that's part of your growth and thinking you should be the man, right? So that's a good little competition between those two, and hopefully drives those two to be better. I mean, they're pretty much the de facto PP guys running things, right? Would you say, right? And most good power plays are going to have 4 forwards on it. So, you're going to be 1 defenseman and 4 forwards. Very rarely are you going to have 2 qualified defensemen that can run a power, that can be on a power play in lieu of 4 forwards offensively. So, you assume that Drysdale and Michkov there's 2 parts on the number 1 power play, and Konecny's going to be there too, and so there's 3. So it's kind of like filling in these spots, like who's going to fill in these spots. So for Rocky, it's great. You kind of have some guys filling in spots, and you can kind of move other guys around, and who complements them. Who's great at retrieving pucks? Who's going to go get pucks after rebound? I mean, guys realize the young guys have to realize part of that maybe their lack of success too is they are so young, and there is some moving around. There are a lot of moving parts, right? Mm-hmm. And guys who are playing and put on the PP, they know what they're doing. However, to do it in the American League and do it in junior, do it in college is different than doing it in the NHL. And so, when Torts and Rocky are trying to decide who's on this thing, and we're like, well, who's got a body? Again, I go back to body of work. Who's got a body of work? Who's done it before?
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to live with some of these warts as you go to figure out guys that can do it. And that leads to some guys in and out. I mean, they're moving guys up and down, not only in and out of your power play and in and out of your daily lineup. They're moving guys up and down to the American League. Like guys aren't even on the roster anymore who are on the power play time, and then they're down in Lehigh Valley a week later. So it's real weird, like debuting all these guys. And so when you do have that continuity, it's hard to really get that consistency in your group. But when you're a young player, you might not necessarily deserve that locked in place either as a veteran guy who's done it for years, So, it's hard to say, but you are going to have some months. It's probably maddening and frustrating at times, but it is a young group. But that's not an excuse for lack of success at this point. And if you feel like you're not getting success, then you've got to go out. This is the NHL. Then you can go out and get guys. You can go out and find somebody that can do it. You don't have to develop your way into a nice power play. You can go out and get some guys that instantly make your power play better. So is Michkov one of them? Maybe, but we'll see. So, and then and sort of my long-winded answer, but then you go back to Eric Johnson and his role.
Yeah.
He's overall, a first overall pick many years ago, blown ACL. He's been a Stanley Cup champion. He's been injured. He's been, the guy. He's been not the guy. Again, it's his role and his opportunity and his duty, as a guy who's been in the league for, over a dozen years and however long he's been in the league to kind of impart his wisdom and be that guy and be the mentor. And believe me, he's a competitor. He still believes he can play every night, and probably still wants to play every night. But kind of see how they're going to help some of these younger guys facilitate their games and be an extra voice and calming influence to them too. And it's great when the young guys have a question, they want something, the answer might be, well, I don't want to ask Coach that. That seems like a stupid question. They might ask him instead because he's, over a beer at dinner or whatever they're having, might be casual conversation where you can kind of slip in a question without having to go to one of the coaches and worried about, that sounds stupid or it sounds trivial. I can kind of bounce it off him first and he can kind of answer without me kind of ask a question without anybody knowing I'm asking a question type thing, I'm really I'm picking his brain, but I'm actually asking a question for my own knowing. So always awesome to have guys like that around, especially for young guys.
True. Yeah, very good point. Okay, so one last question here, and then we'll move on to the next topic. This one's a little more. This one's been tough to kind of figure out because there's been a lot of moving parts with this. Flyers, obviously, Gauthier, that was one of the big things is Gauthier didn't want to come to the team. I didn't want to come to Philly. They ended up trading him to get Jeremy Drysdale, right? That's all said and done. Now you have the whole Alexei Kolosov situation where I don't know if you've seen anything on this, Mike, but essentially there's been a lot of talk about him kind of refusing to come to Philly and having issues and being homesick, coming from Russia, all that stuff. How big of a concern is this? Because if you look at Gauthier, who's one of the top prospects forward-wise, then you have Kolosov, who's probably their best goaltending prospect. How big of a concern is that? Is that's like two guys right there that are high-end players that just don't want to come to Philly? Like, if you could pinpoint it, do you have any reasoning why that could be? Like, do you think could be the Flyers management? Could it be just Philadelphia? Could it be any of the? You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to figure out because it's two guys that could have been really pivotal to the Flyers rebuild.
One, the Gauthier thing, like that's really hard to say. Being a U.S. player, I mean, it had Rutger McGrady. They're both the same age. Both 04s. Kind of same. Grew up playing in Detroit. Seen them a ton as kids. Know their parents. I know their parents. Like it's like Rutgers with Winnipeg. He didn't want to go to Winnipeg. Winnipeg wasn't giving him the spot that he thought he deserved or wanted in their lineup or the opportunity to play right away, I guess, evidently. And so he forced his trade. He kind of forced his way out. I don't know. I think it's really interesting when prospects are able to call shots like that, but maybe that's the way it is these days when you're a pick like that. I don't necessarily think. I don't know why that would happen. I think the Rutger McGrady thing is a little bit more up front, like
Yeah.
the reasons were given. The Goche in Philadelphia is a little bit strange, and nobody's no answers come out in that situation at all.
And right now it's September, and we still haven't heard anything.
Yeah, no, and it's both sides have kept that very quiet, and whoever knows anything is it's good to move on. I mean, you can't keep living in the past. I mean, we see this all over. People like to live in the past. You've got to move your organization forward, and probably, quite frankly, I don't know, as an organization, I guess some of these battles, you win some of these battles, you lose some of these battles, and things go a certain way. You come out on top, and then other times, you get kind of kicked a little bit, and you got to scramble and figure out what you're going to do. And and I know Jamie Drysdale would come here and be like, well, I'm going to make them forget about him. I'm going to make them, your goal of the players, I'm going to make this the deal that they are so thankful they got. I'm going to be I'm going to be the result of this, and they think they lost something, but they gained something even better. And so, but as far as a Russian thing, I don't know. I found in my time in pro hockey, European goaltenders are all over the place. They really are. We had a ton in Grand Rapids, and it was, I don't know, man. It was just, they were all over the map as far as their personalities and what they think they need and what they want and how to talk to them. And goaltending has become such a fine, it's a 1 to 2 player coaching ratio, right? Like it's two, I guess you can say it's 4, because, a goaltending coach is going to run, really be close with American League goalies too, but it's certainly very intimate, and it's very, and so these goalies, I don't know. The European goalie thing, I don't know. They can go either which way. I tend to not have a ton of trust in European goalies, and especially Russian ones. Like, I just, the way that system grows them up, and if they come over here and it's a different game, and I've heard to a man of the Russian goalies to say the rink dimensions throw them off for a long time. They're uncomfortable, and people, goalie, they come over and they find an excuse for why things aren't going well for them, and quite frankly, and I've said this before about a lot of Europeans, like, their life goal is not to play in the American League for the Lehigh Phantoms. It isn't, know. Frankly, they're like, well, if I'm not going to play in the NHL, then I'd rather just be at home. I've seen it between Czechs and Swedes. I totally get that angle. I 100% get that. Like, if you were over there and the KHL was the best league in the world, and you're an American and you're going over to the KHL, and you're like, well, you can't play in St. Petersburg. You can't play on our team here. We're going to send you to Sochi or wherever. We're going to send you to some smaller town in Russia. You'd be like, I'm going back to the state. No way. I'm going to go play back. And I'd rather play in the American League in the States. If I can't play, if I'm going to play in the top league, that's one thing. If I'm going to play in their feeder league, I might not be super excited about that. So I wouldn't take that, and then you throw in the culture, you throw in all this stuff. If he's comfortable in the U.S., is he speaking? Does he want to speak? Does he want to assimilate? You have to assimilate a little bit, and you got to get on board with the culture. And same thing going over there. If you really fight the culture, you don't like to learn you don't like the food, you don't learn some of the language, you don't like just get along. It's hard, and I wouldn't necessarily think that's a dig on the Flyers. To me, that's a personality thing of a European goalie. And I'm sorry, all the European goalies out there, but that's what I've seen. I'm dealing with the 7 or 8 I've seen in pro hockey, that they're really tricky. They're tricky to pin down. If it's not going their way, there's a lot of reasons that they can pull to, like, try and get out and figure out a way to get home or whatever. So that's my take on it. Right or wrong, that's what I think. Anyway, so I wouldn't say it's a dig on the Flyers per se. It's just, I feel that's a personality quirk in my opinion.
Okay, so we have Matvei Michkov and his arrival. Obviously, very anticipated, very exciting. Something that I don't think either. I wasn't expecting this now. I thought this was going to be like at least 2 more years down the line, probably 2026, something like that. But he's here. He's a Flyer. On the ice today, he already tried doing the Michigan, which was great to see. And apparently, Torts was looking at the coaching staff, and everyone was laughing at him, which was funny, because obviously, Torts has had the whole thing with Zegras and the Michigan and all that. Michkov will make his debut. He's technically his Flyers debut will be tomorrow night, Friday, in the rookie game versus the Rangers at PPL Center at 7:00. I'll just be blunt here, Mike. What's your expectation year one?
Well, it's interesting, I mean, there's certainly excitement, right? So I can equate this probably 2-3 years ago, coming out of COVID. Lucas Raymond, who's a real nice player with the Detroit Red Wings now,
Sure.
and he came over from Sweden and went to the rookie, and it used to be, we'd have a rookie tournament in Traverse City, Michigan. So it'd be Toronto, Dallas, St. Louis, Minnesota, Detroit, and I forget one other team. Columbus would be there, and they would have these games. And rookie games they're not, wild's not a term to describe them, but they're a little bit hectic. They're a little hectic and they're a little unorganized, and guys are kind of fired up and they're running around, and you have guys. So Lucas Raymond, for example, Michkov, they're playing in older leagues, right, which are a little bit calmer, a little more puck possession, older guys. They don't run kind of crazy, and this will be his first taste, right? So tomorrow you're playing in an unfamiliar building, and then some guys have contracts, some guys are trying to find a contract, some guys are trying to prove their point. Some guys are trying, you have a bunch of guys who are in this middle and this mud trying to figure their way out. And this is going to be his first experience. And I remember when Lucas Raymond played in ours in Traverse City, he played St. Louis, and they had some older guys, and they were trying to Dakota Joshua, who just signed a nice contract in with Vancouver. He was a little bit on the older side for a rookie tournament, but okay. So, and then he had a couple guys that were maybe like a little more of the tougher persuasion, like to push guys around a little bit more. So you come in with a little bit of fanfare. There's going to be somebody there waiting for you. Like, okay, this isn't, oh, I can't wait to get a shot at this guy, right? So they quite frankly roughed up Lucas Raymond pretty good, to the point where the management was like, "You're not playing again tomorrow. Like, you're not playing. You're not playing again in this game. So." Against we'll call it a groin injury or whatever, but you're down. Like, you have a good chance to make our team. So we're not going to spoil your bid here by getting you murdered out here in the rookie thing. So tomorrow will be super interesting in the fact that it just might be a little bit crazy and a little bit hectic. And, not that they're as rough. I mean, I remember playing in my rookie games, and they're, again, they finished with 5 guys on the bench. Like, it was, they were gong shows, right? Yeah. Now imagine you can actually see a game a little bit where, they can actually watch a kid play, and he might, but he's going to get his time on the PP. I don't know if they think he can kill penalties or not, but, if the game gets out of hand or starts swinging one way, you probably see his shifts go down, going to maybe not, they'll let the third and fourth, put Sawyer Bolton out there a little bit more, guys like that, and so, it'll be interesting, and so I think tomorrow won't be certainly a fair assessment. I just think it's a little bit chaotic, and you might have to worry about keeping his head up a little bit more than anything else, just because guys will be everywhere, and he won't be able to find, like, where's my centerman? I have no idea where my centerman is right now. I don't play with these guys. I don't know how they're playing. I don't, we have no continuity we've had one practice together, probably more individual. So whatever, temper expectations for tomorrow, especially in the rookie game.
Right.
Certainly exciting for him to get out there and get going, and I'm sure it'll help fill up the building a little bit more tomorrow in Lehigh Valley there too. So.
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel like too, Mike. I think with just his style of play, I really just want to see him on the ice. You know what I mean? I'm still trying to I wasn't there today, but obviously there's videos of it. But I want to actually physically see it. You know what I mean? That's what I just want to see. I'm just like, all right, let me just see this kid on the ice. Like, I'm not expecting him to do much, because I remember last year. I mean, and it goes to what you were saying. Like, we actually interviewed Matteo Mann, who played in last year's rookie game, and he got hurt. He got hit by, I think he got hit or fought Matt Rempe. I can't remember which one it was. And obviously Rempe made a big story this year in the NHL and all that, and he couldn't play, and that's kind of what you're saying too, is guys are just going to go out there and try to make a statement, and it's one of those things where I really don't want him to get hurt, because the Flyers have never had any luck with injuries, and second, it would suck for it to not even be a preseason game. It's a rookie game, you know what I mean? So I get what you're saying. I think I'm in that same boat too.
Well, you can't treat them with kid gloves. Like you got to put them out there, right?
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
Expose them enough, but don't overexpose, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
you got to give him the game. Give him the first one so he's fresh.
I was just gonna say,
and then let him watch the second one. There'll be value in him watching the second one too.
Yeah.
Say they don't play him in the second game, and to sit with somebody or sit with somebody in the coaching staff and talk about the game from seeing it up above and get more of an idea. Being out there in a smaller rink, and I used to have more time here. Well, now they're gonna be like, hey, see that? You don't have the time anymore. Here's how you over here. This is how you gain quiet space. This is how you delay. This is you're gonna see more of this. Defensemen tend to play like this here. You can see it. There's an example. Now you see it right there in front of you. So you'll probably even see his video. I imagine they'll run through his video the next morning. Especially if he's not playing. Like come in early. We'll talk to you. Let's go through your shifts, and talk about last night. And for better, for worse, we're going to go through your shifts and talk about it, and then keep you healthy. And we want you, pat him on the back. Hey, we really want you pushing for a spot in the main camp. So we're not going to play you tonight. We'll tell you why we're not playing you. We're not going to play you. We're going to go through your shifts, talk about it, and we're going to kind of break you in to this a little bit. Take your time with this a little bit, and see more for the NHL games, where it's a little more established and better players are playing, and it's a little calmer and a little more realistic.
Okay, let's move on. We got a couple of fan questions here. Some things we kind of touched on a little bit, but we'll still answer them as well. Thank you to everybody for sending your questions. This one comes from Michael Reeves on Twitter. He said, "Is there any positive to having a look at Michkov at center?"
And again, that's I don't know. And do you may experiment this more as you get to camp and some of the camp scrimmages. You may say, hey, let's do him a day at let's give him 2 days at center here.
Yeah.
Again, it's like it's opening your gift at Christmas morning, and then getting it out of the box and be like, okay, how many ways can I play with this toy here? Right? So it's like how many different things can I do with this toy?
Right.
So it's like, well, let's see what we do with let's try this. Let's try this with this toy. Let's play this game. So they'll kind of tweak some things, experiment a little bit, and so there's value in everything. Now, if you get significant time, there's a value in exploring everything. Absolutely.
I feel like especially too, Mike, because you don't have to be good yet. You know what I mean? It's not like the whole city is like waiting on you. Like this is Cupper bus season. Like no, like you're still rebuilding. You're still trying to figure everything out. Like I said it months ago. I said, why not? Try him at center. I mean, he has the talent. I mean, really, if you have to teach him faceoffs and obviously defensive play, but that's with every player and that's what every guy coming over the NHL and all that too. You have to, do everything 200-foot game. So I'm all for that if I'm being totally honest. This next one comes from Nordique on Twitter. He said, "Do you think Erson and Fedotov will take the next steps, or do you think Erson will start or fringe start with Fedotov?" I feel like the guy right now is Erson. That's my guy going into the year. What do you think?
Well, I think we touched on that in the beginning. I think I still think that Fedotov's going to get a number of his touches. Like he'll have plenty of starts. I don't think they're gonna have him sitting around. They need him to play too. They still have to see what they have in him, right? They need him to play. So say in the month of October, November, if there's roughly 26 games, 13 a month, they're probably going to be, Erson probably get 17 starts and he's going to get 14. I don't know. Was that 31 games? It'll be 18, 15, something like that. Like they'll probably go pretty much as is. And for sure, back-to-back games, they're both getting one, right? They're not going to tax anybody. You don't have to lean on anybody. You got 3 and 4. One's going to get 2. One's getting 1. So, which is good as a goalie, as a younger goalie. And whether they communicate this, and again, we go back to the goalies. I told you it's a very intimate position these days, and your goalie to coach ratio is so small that they'll basically. I mean, you can go through and plan out. You can plan out a week or a month in advance and who's playing what. Internally, coaches might do it themselves. Be like, okay, here's what I like to do, barring anything. Again, if stuff hits the wall, the shit hits the wall, and you got to make and it's like I'm going. And Torts is like, I got my gut tonight. I'm going back with Erson. Then you got to do it, But they could plan this thing out, especially in the minors. They would really plan that out as far as who's getting what. And in the beginning, October, November, the first quarter point of the season, is really important for both of them to be playing, and not like sample type playing, like a nice chunk of playing where you can get, not here and there, but a nice chunk of games in where you can kind of see them both. And then, again, say, hey, either we're going to stick with that kind of that 65-35 we thought, or maybe it's going to be 60-40, maybe they're closer to 50-50, but those are, so they're going to platoon, but I think Harrison will get the percentage more of games for sure. It might be slight, but he'll get it.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of good stuff. Now we got the fun part. Now we got trivia. This will be fun. So each week, we're going to end the show by, I'm going to be asking Mike trivia about himself. Some stuff might change. We might do like maybe Puckdoku. I know we did that before. We might do some other stuff, but for the most part, it might be trivia. So here we go. Episode 1. Valentine's Day 2003. You were with the Bruins. You broke an NHL record scoring the fastest 2 goals by a single player to start a game. How many seconds did it take you to do it?
You had to start off with the easiest one. It's the only thing, the only trivia that I actually tell people that, hey, I got this.
You know this one?
Yeah. Jeez, I got the video.
Yeah.
So it's 2 goals in 27 seconds.
Yes.
17 seconds. The second one's 10 seconds later. On Robert Luongo.
Yeah.
As soon as anybody says Valentine's Day 2003, I'm like,
you know what it is?
Got it. Yeah.
Okay.
It was one was kind of slapped out of the air. I should.
It was. That was sweet. It was kind of like, it was kind of like a baseball bunt. Like,
Like it hit him, and then I kind of like bunted it out of the air. But I thought for sure his hat trick that night. I think we were down 4-2 after the first period, and now after being up. But and it was sweet. And I don't know. I haven't been in the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. You pay to go in, and then you go through this little turnstile thing, and then it's like immediately down to the left. Like you walk in the door, it's like right at 11:30 on the clock, like right in front of you to the left, and that's where it's got a list of some random records, and that's where I'm
nice.
So when people go there, I tell them first thing, go look at my record right when you pay. It's like right there. You can't miss it. You can't get lost in the Hall of Fame. It's like literally by the front. So
right.
You had to start off. That might be a 1 out of 10 on the easiest.
I had to.
I know.
I had to start with the good one.
But it's great. I'm super proud. That's one of my more proud things is to actually have a record in the Hall of Fame. So then when you get some of these, quick, like something pings on your phone about somebody's game. Oh, so-and-so scored in 15 seconds, whatever. I'm like, change them up, coach, change them up. So for some reason, our coach left this out there. I don't know if it was Mike. Was it Mike Sullivan? Could have been Sully, or it could have been Mike Sullivan, who was our coach at the time.
I think so. Maybe
Robbie Fatorik. I don't know.
Yeah.
Robbie Fatorik got fired, but he must have got fired like right after that. I don't know.
Let me see.
I don't know.
Mike Sullivan. Yep.
June 2003.
2003. Yep.
Yeah. So Sully was Oh yeah, because So Sully came in.
Yeah. Or wait, no, I'm sorry. That was I think that was Fatorik.
That
was Valentine's Day. Yes, that's February. Yeah.
Yeah. So he got fired maybe like March of 2003. Then Sully came the rest of that year, and then the following year. So.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I lost my dates. Got my dates messed up.
Yeah. All good. Mike, this was great. How we feeling after episode 1?
Super. Feel awesome. Feel energized.
There we go. Thanks everybody again for all the support as always. Make sure to check out Kickin It With Knuble all over social media. Thank you guys so much for all the support getting up to episode 1. And we'll talk to you guys all again next week. See you guys.
See ya.